Imagine this. You walk into a store with zero intention of buying anything. You're just browsing. And then you see it. A jacket. A nice one. Originally priced at $300. But there's a big red tag on it that says $120. You do the quick math. That's $180 in savings. And suddenly, a voice in your head says, "I'd be stupid not to buy this." So you pull out your card. You pay $120 for a jacket you didn't even come in for. And here's the wildest part. You walk out of that store actually feeling like you saved money. But did you? Did you actually save $180? No. You spent $120 that you never planned to spend in the first place. And that feeling, that warm, satisfying feeling of getting a deal, that's not your logic talking. That's a psychological trick that's been running on your brain for years. Probably since the first time you saw a sale sign as a kid. And today, we're going to break it down completely. Because once you understand exactly how this trick works inside your mind, you'll never look at a discount the same way again. And more importantly, you'll stop letting it drain your wallet without you even noticing. Here's what most people believe about discounts. They believe discounts save you money. That's the whole point, right? You pay less, you save the difference. Simple math. But here's the problem with that belief. It completely ignores one thing: whether or not you actually needed to buy anything in the first place. Think about the last time you bought something on sale that you hadn't planned to buy. Maybe it was a 3-for-2 deal at the grocery store. Maybe it was a limited time offer on an app you downloaded but never really used. Maybe it was clothes during a seasonal sale. Shoes you didn't need. A gadget that seemed too cheap to pass up. Now add all of those up over a year. Add up every "I saved money by buying this on sale" purchase that you wouldn't have made otherwise. For most people, that number is uncomfortable. Because here's the truth that nobody in retail wants you to know. Discounts are not designed to save your money. They're designed to separate you from it. Faster, and with a smile on your face. And the reason it works so well comes down to some very specific, very predictable patterns in how the human brain handles money. Let's start with the first trick. It's called the anchor effect. And it might be the most powerful pricing tool ever invented. Here's how it works. When your brain sees a price for the first time, it uses that price as a reference point. An anchor. Every other price you see after that gets judged relative to that anchor. So when a retailer shows you a jacket for $300, crossed out, and then shows you $120, your brain doesn't calculate the actual value of the jacket. It calculates the distance from the anchor. $300 was the anchor. $120 is $180 below the anchor. And that distance feels like a win. But here's the question. No one asks, who decided that jacket was worth $300 in the first place? The same people selling it to you for $120. In fact, some products are intentionally marked up higher just so they can be discounted later. The original price isn't based on real value. It's based on making the sale price look irresistible. You're not seeing a price cut. You're seeing a performance, and your brain applauds every time. Now let's add the second trick, and this one is even sneakier. It's called loss aversion. Researchers have found that the pain of losing something is about twice as powerful psychologically as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. In simple terms, losing $50 feels twice as bad as gaining $50 feels good. So when you see a sale ending in 3 hours, or a "only 2 left in stock" label, or a countdown timer, your brain shifts into loss prevention mode. It stops asking, "Do I want this?" and starts asking, "What do I lose if I don't act now?" You're no longer making a purchase decision. You're making an escape from discomfort. And that's exactly where your money goes. Not toward things you actually want. Toward things that made you feel like you were about to lose something. But wait, there's one more layer to this. And this one is my personal favorite, because it explains something you've probably done without ever realizing it. It's called mental accounting. This is the idea that your brain keeps separate mental budgets for different categories of spending. And here's where discounts do something really clever. When you save money on something, your brain often reallocates that saved amount to a reward. Let's say you went to the grocery store planning to spend $100, but you used coupons and got it done for $70. You technically saved $30. So what happens? You stop for coffee, or you add something extra to your cart. Or later that day, you feel like you deserve a small treat because you were so responsible with money earlier. The $30 you saved doesn't go into your savings account. It gets spent somewhere else, because in your brain's accounting system, it was already earmarked as available. It was never really saved at all. It just moved. So now you understand the three pillars: anchoring, loss aversion, and mental accounting. But let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here. Because this is where it gets really interesting. Retailers, apps, e-commerce platforms, they don't stumble onto these techniques by accident. There are entire teams of behavioral economists, psychologists, and data scientists whose entire job is to study how your brain makes decisions. And then to design systems that predict and influence those decisions before you've even noticed you've made one. Flash sales that last exactly 24 hours. Buy one, get one deals that make you buy twice what you needed. Subscription boxes that charge you automatically because canceling feels like losing your benefits. Loyalty points that make you spend more just to earn more. It's all the same system, different packaging. And here's the thing that really stings when you see it clearly. Every dollar that you spend chasing a discount, whether it's the jacket, the 3-for-2 deal, or the app subscription you got at 50% off, that dollar had another life. That dollar, if invested consistently over time, could have been part of building real wealth. Not just spending less, actually building more. The gap between people who build wealth and people who don't isn't always income. Often, it's the slow, invisible leak. The constant stream of smart purchases that were actually emotional ones. The deals that felt like wins but quietly added up to thousands of dollars a year pointed in the wrong direction. And the most frustrating part? You feel disciplined when you buy on sale. You feel like you're winning. That feeling is the trap. So what do you actually do with this? First, change the question you ask. Most people look at a sale and ask, how much am I saving? Start asking, would I have bought this if it wasn't on sale? That one question cuts through almost every retail psychology trick instantly. Because if the answer is no, you're not saving anything. You're being recruited. Second, introduce a waiting rule. If something isn't on your list and it's not urgent, give it 48 hours. Sleep on it. The urgency you feel around a sale is almost always manufactured. And 48 hours later, most of the time, you won't even remember why you wanted it. That manufactured urgency dissolves remarkably fast when you step away from the trigger. Third, start tracking your sale purchases separately for 1 month. Just 1 month. Write down everything you bought because it was discounted. At the end of the month, look at how many of those things you actually needed, used, or valued. Most people are genuinely shocked when they see it written down. The total is usually much higher than they expect. And fourth, the most powerful move of all, redirect the win. If you genuinely do save money on something you were already going to buy, treat that as a small win and move the saved amount somewhere intentional. An investment account, an emergency fund, a savings goal. Make the money actually move to a better place instead of letting it dissolve into the next impulse decision. Because wealth isn't built by spending less in the moment. It's built by redirecting money consistently toward things that grow. And that requires you to see clearly, past the sale signs, past the countdown timers, past the feeling of getting a deal, to what's actually happening with your money. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. The most expensive things you'll ever buy in your life won't feel expensive when you buy them. They'll feel like wins. They'll feel like smart decisions. They'll come with big red discount tags and countdown timers and that warm rush of satisfaction that says, "You got a deal today." The brands that master this don't just sell products, they sell feelings. The feeling of being smart, savvy, ahead of the game. And as long as that feeling is more powerful than your awareness of what's happening, they win and your bank account loses. But the moment you start seeing it, really seeing it, the game changes. You stop being a consumer being played and start being someone who consciously decides where their money goes. And here's what I find genuinely fascinating about all of this. The same psychological wiring that makes you chase discounts is the same wiring that, when understood and redirected, can make you incredibly good at building wealth. The urgency, the reward chasing, the need to feel like you're winning. All of that energy doesn't have to go toward sale racks. It can go toward watching your investments grow, reaching financial goals, and building a life where you're not just spending less, you're actually building more. Now discounts are just the beginning of this rabbit hole. Because if you think what happens at the cash register is interesting, wait until you learn what happens inside your brain when you get a raise, and why most people who earn more somehow end up saving less. That's something almost no one talks about honestly. And it's the subject of the next video. So if that sounds like something you need to see, you know what to do.